Everyone's talking about AI, but who's actually implementing it? I'm Jenna Ahern, the CEO of Guardian Owl Digital, a search engine marketing firm rooted in integrity and transparency in the digital age. AI and marketing are at a crossroads, and the technology is moving faster than most business leaders can keep up with. That's why we created Go AI, a podcast series where we interview leaders in various industries about all things artificial intelligence. With each guest, my co-host Connor Rafferty and I will explore the applications that this rapidly evolving technology has for business leaders and their industries. Let's go AI. Wow, 12 episodes. That was a year.
Yep, we're on number dozen.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe, for those that are listening, that if you haven't created a podcast, listen, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of coordination.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you did most of it, Connor.
Yeah, I mean, just getting the guests, talking to people, guest after guest after guest. There's just a lot to learn.
There's so much to learn.
Yeah.
What do you think your biggest takeaway was?
For every single guest, it didn't seem like there was a single one that had not at least been aware of at least a little bit of AI within their company already. Even if, like, I remember there was one that we reached out to, and he asked his COO, like, hey, what are we, or maybe CTO, like,
How
hey,
are
are we using AI at all? And the CTO came back and said, well, yeah, we're doing it this way, this way, this way. And he said, oh my God, we're using AI already.
He didn't even know.
Yeah, and it was just like, wow.
Yeah, one of my favorite, for me, mind-blowing moments was when Lucas Elliott from Brown-Forman was talking about how there's all these AI tools, but because he's working for this huge, enterprise, they also deal with liquor. Yep. There's all this red tape that by the time they push, anything AI through the process, there's already a new iteration. Yeah. So it's like, that's something that they're still solving for. And I'm like, oh, that's such a roadblock. Yeah. So that kind of hit me of, wow, this is going to be like an uphill climb for some of these C-suite execs within their company the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's a constantly changing environment. I mean, it's truly Darwinian in that you need to just be able to adapt your environment when the environment is just, the technological environment is just constantly changing. And you just have no clue, even 2 months down the line, what next innovation will break through in AI. And that's going to be one of the big challenges for business owners is, how do we keep up? And how do we just keep scaling and keeping ahead with AI?
Especially when I'm sure there's some technology or something will break, right? Or, Chris Howard, I can't remember when he was a guest this past year, what month it was, but, he had worked in California and he had years of experience implementing AI within insurance systems. And I'm just, that was another, that was mind blowing because insurance changes a lot. Not only is the technology changing a lot, but then you have products or the services that you provide where there's change a lot. So I agree with you. We're all sprinting, I guess.
Yes. And that's another really large development in AI is that for years and years, it was that kind of behind the scenes data analysis kind of stuff. But as generative AI becomes, as we're talking now, that's probably like the forefront kind of AI that's on people's minds. They think ChatGPT,
Copilot, Gemini.
Gemini. They think, not just text, but images and video and whatnot. And that's going to be one of the biggest themes going forward. It's suddenly going to be the client-facing stuff. It's not just going to be your behind the scenes, analyze the data or just automate this processing of bills or whatnot. Customer outreach with AI, just generating advertisements, like one of the things that Meta and Pinterest have been doing this year is experimenting with generative AI and ad tools. So creating a background for a product. So you can just take that water bottle and shoot it against a black background and suddenly Pinterest will make it look like it's in, some safari or something. Like, hey,
on a beach,
you
drinking water. Yeah.
Get this water bottle for when you go on your trip.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So, I mean, that's something that I think business owners are becoming increasingly aware of. It's like, wow, like, I can use this for communication with other people.
Oh, yeah. You make a good point, just how fast it's moving. But even as it moves faster, there were several guests that talked about things that they would never want AI to replace. I remember, I think it was Chris Brumley from Nice Floors talked just about, if someone's upset and how, okay, sometimes a human he wants that human to manage some of those like really urgent issues. But again, he feels that there'll be efficiency in having AI be able to control or manage some maintenance or things that you don't necessarily need a human for, and that AI can do customer service wise. So I really liked that question that you, Connor, asked a lot this season of just what wouldn't you want AI to replace?
One of Chris Brumley's success stories in just showing how you can't replace the human element in business is when he gave a story about how he had a client or a prospective customer perhaps who wanted to order just a ton of flooring materials in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Chris reached out and said, hey man, I'll be in Bowling Green next week. Like, how about I just stop by and say hi? And he said, I wasn't even going to be in Bowling Green initially, but I decided to make that move and say, I'm just going to go down there and talk to him face to face to communicate. And that was instrumental to landing that client for him.
Yeah.
And, if he had just left that to like, all right, I'll go to ChatGPT and even say like, hey, just send an email back to him, hope you enjoy your time in Bowling Green, blah, blah, blah. Who knows what that would have led to.
Not as impactful.
Yeah, you need the human element. You still need to identify like, hey, where can I still step in? Even if AI can do this for me, where should I still be going above and beyond? And you're still using AI, you still need to say, okay, where can I go above and beyond as a human to make those connections with customers, clients, whoever it may be.
Gosh, and Connor, I love that. It brings me, when you were telling about the human element, Amy Rudy, who she was talking about how sales people, you're still going to need that human touch, right? And, hopefully AI can help sales teams be more efficient, but hopefully the better news is they can be more effective in what they do best, listening, being able to pick up on, the nuances of what do their children like to do or what's their activities, and being able to just be more centered around making those emotional ties with humans while the AI can, do everything else, because that's what humans, we do best. Yeah. So to me, from a sales side, I just remember her being a guest and thinking about that as if you're not using it as a sales team, you're going to be left behind, because those teams are going to be so much more effective at getting in front of prospective customers. However, AI is going to get you that far. You still need, hopefully, especially in big business and big sales, right? You're going to need that human emotional connection and tie. And hopefully AI is going to allow you to leave more room for that.
With things like, generative AI that can kind of give you a foot in the door, kind of like, an introduction, and kind of just get customer interest. Maybe a pithy way to say it is AI should be the foot in the door, but you should be the handshake.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Yes. At least for right now.
Oh yeah.
We fast forward a couple of years, we might be walking in the door. Yeah. It's amazing. Another guest that we had that I had just a whoa moment was Summer Goldman. And when, I don't know if you remember this, she was working for MI2, and they are able to predict certain elements within soil that's going to help with the metal and steel industry. And I'm like, wow, that technology is being used right now to make decisions. So I know you just said generative AI, and as consumers, yes, that's what we're using on a daily basis. To me, really sifting into the clouds and trying to think about these companies like in Kentucky, MI2, and how that is benefiting our economy, being able to use this technology was mind-blowing.
Predictive analytics will always be huge in AI, especially for industries like the metals industry, where you need to identify, hey, where should we be sourcing our metal from is not just, on a weather standpoint, like, hey, if we set up a mining operation in this part of the map, what weather events could shut it down, even if it's like from light rain to, big storms or even like, hurricanes, as well as, other factors like, is this a place of political instability to where, we might have a contract with the government, but if the government's overthrown, suddenly we might not be able to keep mining.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So yeah, I would say, of course, the behind the scenes stuff, predictive analytics is one of them, will continue to get better and better and better.
Well, Bob Patterson spoke a little bit to predictive analytics and what it's going to do to CPA firms and hopefully making them more, efficient. They're already using it.
Yeah. And he was an interesting guest to talk to because he mentioned that accountants are kind of notoriously resistant to the new technology. Let me be on the spreadsheets, that kind of thing. And so
I think that's going to change.
Oh, yeah.
Like he said, I think they're going to be able to, again, I'm paraphrasing, but there'll be more advisors because some of that work, the tedious work that CPAs do, AI can hopefully handle. Now, again, I don't know what the legislation and laws look like, but for them to be able to then make recommendations and analyze and have that relationship with their clients and their time being spent there, I think is fantastic.
Yeah. And the key thing to realize, I think, for a lot of business owners across industries is that the AI does not need to be the finishing touch of the task. It can be just a part of the process. So like in accounting, if you need to look through a tax form, a long, dreary form to where you only need a little bit of it, you can have an AI system to where you can go to it and it's almost like how we used to, or we can still do it, like click Control F and say, okay, search for this word.
Yeah.
You can go much more sophisticated with AI and say like, okay, I need to know about all the instances of mentions of this tax code or that tax code, that kind of thing throughout a document.
Gosh, yeah, it's wild. So Connor, I know mine, but was there a favorite guest or favorite moment that you had this season?
It was really neat to talk to Nick Carrolls, who had been just so ahead of AI before many other people.
It's like a two-time IBM master innovator.
Yeah. So, it was an interesting mix for our guests of people who had, before ChatGPT, were like,
what is AI?
Like, what does AI even stand for? And to also talk to people like Nick Carrolls who are like, oh yeah, AI, I've been...
The Turing test.
Yeah, like I've known about that since I've been out of college, that kind of thing. So it was really neat to talk to someone who's just been sort of watching the whole thing develop from as long as he's been paying attention.
I agree.
So yeah, that was fun.
I thought just because we are doing podcasting, Ellie Puckett, with how they're incorporating AI within their podcasting process and just the controversy in it. I think it came up a little bit on that episode where certain clients or companies didn't want their notes to be written by AI. And so there was a big, that's a concern. And in that industry, how do you overcome, those obstacles where clients want one thing, but really from a business perspective, it's much more efficient and helps your team. And that's the direction operationally you should be going. So I found that fascinating with just at a CEO level, how she's navigating that in real time.
That does speak to kind of just the whole intersection of AI with human creativity in podcasting and just video generation as well. Like YouTube this year has been really pushing for accounts to access things like, hey, here's audience analytics for AI. We can relay that analytics to another generative AI platform that can suggest hey, here's what a thumbnail should look like. Here's what your titles should probably look like based on our own audience analytics data.
It's so helpful because again, this wasn't a little work. It was a lot. And we couldn't have done it without Resonate recordings. So just shout out to them for holding us accountable, helping coordinate the production element. I think that Brad's a hero. And Tina, Ellie, Julius, like you, Connor, Mia. I mean, it took a team effort this year to get this out the door. And it was just something, I remember us talking about it because you've been with Guardian now for almost 8 years.
3.5 years full time, joined summer of 21, but I've been interning since summer of 2018 or 19.
Okay. Well, for Guardian Out, for this, launched in 2013, it feels like it's been 100 years and 10 all in one for me. And I remember with SEO, when SEO was still new in the buzzword, it was, really trying to get something educational out there where business owners could tune in and just learn and just have this transparent conversation with business owners about, are they using SEO? What's their fear? What are they doing? And so with this year, I'm so proud of us for being able to have this out there for business owners, entrepreneurs, anybody alike, to be able to go to and just listen to these experts. Because like you said, I mean, Nick Carroll's was literally a 2-time IBM Master Innovator, all the way to, Amy Rudy, who is in sales and is still utilizing this technology and forecasting what this is going to do to sales forces. And be able to come and listen and digest, have an appetite for this technology. And hopefully I'm hoping is that they just start being the practitioner and using it. And this hopefully helps them take a step in that direction.
Oh yeah. The cat is out of the bag with AI. It is.
It's here.
We all know that it can do quite a bit. And so it's going to be interesting just as the podcast goes forward to see. I mean, this will be kind of an interesting document almost, because we started this podcast when ChatGPT was still kind of fresh in the consciousness of like, what is this?
And I don't even think Gemini had rolled out like fully when we launched this. Maybe they had, but I thought it was in beta. So, I mean, little things like that, even the video marketing tools that we're using now. So, I mean, for me personally, I was a little insecure about doing this, and it was really nervous. Like, again, interviewing experts like Lucas and Nick and Chris Howard and, very tech savvy people who have been in this space for a long time. And it made me feel good and a little reassured. Not only has it continued to change, but it's going to continue to change pretty rapidly, and they can't even keep up. And that makes me feel a little bit better and reassured. Okay, like I'm just trying my best, and it's okay. No one is there. There's experts, but everyone has to be in this continual education mindset, because you could be an expert right now, but 2 years from now, you could not know what's going on.
Yeah, that is certainly one of the key takeaways, is even talking to someone like Nick Carroll's. I mean, you ask him questions, and he'll say like, listen, I mean, I don't know if anybody can really say what AI will resemble 30 years from now.
Yeah.
It was interesting to kind of hear from him and Lucas in particular about just, they're more familiar with this technology. And so they're a little more measured about like, listen, you can't have it do everything.
Yeah.
But it will certainly get better and better at what it can do.
Yeah. Thinking of Nick and Lucas, Michael, who is teaching kids, in high school about how to utilize this technology. That to me was also fascinating, that you have somebody in our community, Louisville, that taking these bright minds from, all these schools, putting them in a room and building projects with this technology and just kind of like seeing what happens. I mean, that's kind of what we have to do as adults, if we're not in a classroom, just try to use it and see what we like, what we don't, what works, what doesn't. Yeah. So that was a cool show, learning from him and what he's doing with high school kids.
Oh yeah. And anyone interested in AI is going to need to be a lifelong learner, because it will just keep throwing curveballs at you. The industry will, in terms of like, well, we didn't know it could do this, but it can do this. Kind of I guess it's now kind of a classic history of AI moment now is when Bill Gates first saw ChatGPT. This was before they had released it to the public. They had come to his house and or I think he had visited them and said, like, listen, this is pretty cool, but he kind of just threw out almost like, kind of slyly. He said, listen, if you can make this pass the AP biology exam, then I'll be impressed. And internally he was like, that'll keep him busy for like 3 years. And it was only a couple months later, they're like, all right, come on in, Bill. And,
it passed.
and he was asking him biology questions left and right and trying to throw at curveballs. He was like, oh my God. If you can surprise Bill Gates at how rapidly what it can do, I think that should be humbling to any business owner who says, I think I know what AI can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Get ready for surprises left and right is a big key takeaway.
Well, speaking of surprises, I can't believe again, this is our 12th episode. We are wrapping up 1 year of the Go AI podcast. What were you most surprised to learn this season?
Probably just how curious so many of the guests were just about seeing them go from even if they had no clue what AI was, to kind of see them realize like, oh, here's how it can fit into my business. And to just see how wide ranging AI as a technology really is. Because we talked to people from so many industries and every single one of them had significant uses for AI. And that was really instrumental in getting me to see like AI will really touch just about every aspect of life, and it can integrate with so many technologies that it goes far beyond just like, hey, write me an email.
Oh, yeah.
It's just about anything you can imagine.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway is, you and we have read a lot about the doom and gloom around AI. I hear it all the time, people complaining, people afraid of the technology. And my biggest surprise is no one really came on this show and said, I'm not using it, or, I'm scared. They were I'm pretty sure every single one left us with, don't abuse it, use it. You have to be the practitioner. Don't be afraid of it. You just have to start. And that to me was surprising, because I would have thought that, a lot of the people we interviewed, I would say were maybe 40 and above. And this is a new technology and they are still running towards it and curious, to your point, and gave all the reasons in the world why business owners and executives should be using it. I thought that was wonderful. I didn't expect that. I thought there'd be at least one guest that was like, yeah, no, I'm never going to, I don't want to implement it. Or just, hey, yeah, we did, but I disagreed with this. So to me, that was the most surprising thing, that all these guests not knowing one another from all across different industries were all kind of preaching that same words of wisdom.
Yeah. One of the reasons I like to ask the question about where do you see the human element not being replaced within your business and industry as a whole is that you really kind of do see in their answers that there really is just human common sense working, always saying like, well, I would never have an AI do that part of the job. And just realizing like a lot of good business sense comes down to like, oh yeah, like, I'm not going to use AI for like super scary, like exploitative stuff. I'm not like, I'm just going to do what's useful rather than like, just say, all right, like, AI, I'm just going to put you in this room and just let you do whatever.
No, there's going to be some control there, or some overseeing.
Yeah. So that was really kind of nice to see. I don't think we had a single guest who was like, yeah, I'm just going to automate as much as we can. Yeah. And then just suffer the consequences.
No, I agree. Yeah. So what this year, we know, our audience doesn't know, but we've already started filming for 2025. Yeah. What are you thinking we're going to be talking about? This time next year from an AI perspective, will it still be generative AI, or will we be more people from a consumer standpoint, be more talking about the predictive analytics? What do you think?
I think just by the very nature of generative AI, it's what people are going to be seeing on a daily basis. I think if you go on YouTube, you'll see more generative AI videos. On social media, more generative AI content. So I think that's what will keep it, generative AI, on the forefront of people's minds. And of course, in business, that has a lot of applications in the sense of like, hey, can I like enhance this image of a product real quick?
Yeah.
But I would say something to really watch out for in 2025 would be the transformation of search engines by generative AI and the next generation of search engines. Now, I'm not sure exactly when we'll see traditional search engines where you just type it in and then there's links that you just sift through and, maybe there's a product window. But I would say, within the next coming years and certainly toward the end of 2025, I think we're going to see more and more evidence of what Google is doing in particular, but also companies like Perplexity AI, which is building a generative AI search engine where your searches will look more and more like almost like you have a personalized blog that is complete with, there's a summarized answer. Here's some YouTube videos you can
to support
click
this
on.
answer.
Yeah. Here's bullet point lists.
We've all become headline readers, and I read a couple headlines and I determine which one do I want to actually go in and read.
And I think for business owners, pretty much every business now, most of them have an online presence.
Absolutely.
And
or
so
they should.
They ought to.
Yes.
And for search to be much more like, here's the answer, here's a personalized, almost blog-like answer to your question. And there will be still links to businesses' websites, but how do you adapt to this? It's the AI and SEO intertwining.
Crossroads. We're at a crossroads.
Yes.
I am excited. One thing that I didn't hear a lot from an AI side this season was the ethics, morality legislation. So I'm really excited to hopefully see some changes there and to be able to talk about that with guests that are far more intelligent than I am with ethics and how that's going to affect the coming years, because there's so much going on in development and progressing the technology. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of people working on the ethics side, or at least that's just not progressing as fast. So I am very, very curious of how that shakes out here in the next 12 months. And hopefully we can talk more about it on the show in 2025.
Yeah, Amy Rudy gave an example in the sales context of using AI to basically reach out to people who are, vulnerable and exploitable from a sales standpoint. And she was worried about bad actors basically, and not necessarily even like cyber criminals, but just like companies just using AI to say, okay, who are the easy marks that we can really extract a lot of money out of? We could sit in this podcast and say well, don't do that. But, there's companies that are going to say, guess what? I'm going to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
And so
they're out there.
The questions of how do you regulate that, and culturally, what should people know about AI to avoid kind of being exploited in that way? That's going to be a really tough ethical question is, how can you avoid being exploited by even, legally established businesses that are just using AI to kind of exploit people? And that's one of the big ethical questions, and ones that we kind of bring up on the podcast is, how can you use this ethically? And, putting business owners on the spot and saying hey, what do you think within your industry should never be automated? How should you not misuse AI? And I would say it won't just be business owners. It'll be customers who are concerned about AI. And that's one of the big things that business owners should realize is when you're using AI, your customers are going to have opinions on whether you're misusing it or not. So there will be negative repercussions for using it in exploitative ways.
And you know what? If you run a business, or even if you're if you're human, you have to fail forward. And so again, I think the biggest thing is you're going to make mistakes. You are going to, maybe have some upset customers here and there, but these are opportunities for you to learn and to get better with the technology. So I'm so excited that we just wrapped up our first year with Go AI. Please stay tuned. Connor and I are back here in 2025, and we have some really, really, really cool guests that are going to come on and, again, hopefully blow your minds just like we were this season. So thank you all for tuning into our first year. We appreciate you, and we hope that you learned something from this podcast.
See you in 2025.
Thank you for listening to Go AI. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and review our podcast so we can continue to grow and offer more great AI content. If you're looking for digital marketing, digital transformation, or AI help, make sure you visit www.guardianowdigital.com. Have questions? Email team@guardianowdigital.com for answers. See you next time on Go AI.